Hello everyone, today we have here the SMX D05. SMX has been doing great controllers lately with the X5 and the X10, and I expect the D05 to be just as good. In the box you get a charging dock with pogo pins and two slots on the back, one for the dongle and one to connect to the computer. And this dock is pretty lightweight. The dongle is tiny and it's a bit hard to insert into the dock. The included USB cable is pretty common, there's nothing special about it. And here's the D05. Starting with the face buttons, we have membrane buttons with a good resistance and a good travel distance. When fully pressed, they stop about here, but you can press it harder and it will sink into the shell. The shutter buttons uses mechanical switches. And we have analog Hall effect triggers. The analog stick shaft is made of plastic, and it has anti-friction rings. There is no internal restriction, so the sticks will touch the edges of the anti-friction rings. On the D-pad, we also have a membrane D-pad, and it is pretty responsive, not too hard and not too soft. The start, select, and menu buttons uses rubber membranes too. And in the back we have two back buttons which are incredibly silent. They're positioned right under your middle finger. This controller feels exactly like an Xbox Series controller. The shape of the grips, the ergonomics, everything is a one-to-one copy. The main difference is that on the Xbox controller, you have a disc-shaped mechanical D-pad. And this controller also takes a few hints from the FlyDigi Vader 4 Pro, mostly from the placements of the back buttons. Also, the charging pins are nearly identical. I tried to charge the Vader 4 Pro in the D05 dock, but it didn't work, and vice versa. Here's how the controller looks when charging. This controller has three connection modes: B and home for the dongle, Y and home for the switch, X and home for Bluetooth. And here's a look at the RGB lights around the sticks. And this is how it looks when you turn off the lights. There's a few light modes that you can change by pressing Function and right on the D-pad. By pressing Function and the left button, you can change the brightness. And with up and down, you can change the vibration intensity. Now, testing on the Switch, there is no motion controls, and this is a big letdown. It makes this controller less compatible with a lot of games, like Splatoon or Super Mario Odyssey. Testing the analog sticks, there is a small dead zone in the center, but it isn't too big. There's no cardinal snapping, and the circularity is perfect. The D-pad is also pretty good. The diagonals are easy to hit, and the input is very consistent. It also has a pivot in the center to prevent you from hitting all four directions. The triggers are also very precise with a really tiny dead zone. You can change the button layout by pressing A and Function. And there is also a turbo mode. Pressing Function and the triggers activates the hair trigger mode. And the back buttons are super easy to remap on the go. You can even remap button combinations. Holding Start and Select will change the controller mode. You have X input, D input, and Switch Pro controller mode. The stick resolution has around 250 steps. I redid the test a second time just to be sure. Moving to the teardown, removing 4 screws on the back easily opens up the controller. And here's a look at the back buttons. Here's the back of the board. And the battery has 1000 milliamps. Here's the other side of the board with the membranes and contacts for the buttons. One thing that concerns me are the triggers. They don't have a metal pivot, and the springs are held in place by this tiny plastic pin. And you can see it's already coming off. With repeated presses, this tiny pin can break off, and it will break the trigger. The analog sticks uses K-Silver Hall effect modules. And here's a look at the face buttons. The button layout is fixed, and the rubber membranes are pretty tall. Finally, I tried to test the latency with a GPDL, but I couldn't get any readings. Even swapping contacts gave me no results. So I had to do a latency test with a slow motion cameras, and these are the results. It's something between the Vader 4 Pro and the Cyclone 2. On my final thoughts, the D05 is an okay controller. The buttons and D-pad feels good, and the analog sticks has a good performance too. It comes with a charging dock as a bonus, and it's compatible with multiple platforms. The only con is the lack of motion controls and the bad construction on the triggers. And that's it for today's video. What is your favorite Easy SMX controller so far? Leave your opinions in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.